Next thing we're going to do, and before we move on, remember this is a movable shape, so we can move it up and down. Find your root notes. This is G major 7. Again, it has the M, A, J, and a 7. G sharp major 7, or A flat major 7, A major 7. Beautiful. Cool. So work on these and just get this shape down. Cool. At the end, I'm going to show you a little progression you can do and put these all together. And I'll recommend a good app for you to practice them with. Alright, so that's our main shapes moving along the low E. So for the next few minutes, what I'm going to do is we're going to go to the A and the D string, and I'm going to show you the same chords. I'm not going to talk about the intervals in them, but I'm just going to show you how to play the same chords up and down the neck. Alright, so again, low E string, recap. Major chord, subtract the second finger, minor chord, that's flatting the third. Back to the major chord, remove the pinky, dominant 7 right there. Cool. Alright, and then I remove the pinky, that dropped that 7 down, half step. Cool. Major 7 chord is just removing the fingers a little bit. And again, my frets are 3, 5, 4, 4, and then I'm barring. Cool. And the one thing we didn't do was the minor 7, so let me do that one really quick. The easiest way to do the minor 7 is actually not really from the major 7. It's from actually just looking at a regular minor chord. So if here's my regular minor chord, what we're going to do is we're going to take the pinky away, and then we're going to have what looks like a giant bar chord with one finger, and then just one note in there. And I usually play these with my pinky. The pinky is actually really good for chords when you have them stretched out like this. For me, it just offers more stretch capabilities in there, so I really like that. So I have my 1 and my pinky, and I'm barring the 3rd fret, or where my root note is. In this case, it's our G again. And then I have the 5th fret of the D string, and I'm right across. So I get a really, really dreamy sound. Now what intervals are going on in this chord? Let's look at them. Again, we have the 1 and the 5. Those are pretty standard with all these chords. What's here? I have an F, so I have that flat 7 again. So we got 1, 5, flat 7, flat 3. So there's 2 notes that are flat in there. And again, here was my 7. We could see it got flatted to here. Here's my 3. It got flatted to here. So it's a lot like the regular minor chord. So here's major, here's minor, there's the flat 3, and then the minor 7 flats the 7 right there. Cool. So you see a big transforming, you get all these chords, but you're getting smarter knowing all these little intervals and numbers. I do have a little chart that I made with this stuff, which I'm going to post up for download, and I'll put it under there with triads and stuff, so feel free to download that to help you go along with this lesson. Okay, so those are all our chords along the E string. So now we learned our shapes and our intervals or what are in there. What we're going to do is we're going to take our chord shapes and explore them on the A and the D strings. So again, here was, let's do major chords. What I'm going to do is go straight to the 3rd fret. So in this case, I'd have like a C major chord here. Would that be too confusing if I keep it in C? I wonder if I should just keep it in the G. That makes sense. Let's do it in C. Okay, because we're not talking about notes in this case. We're just talking about shapes. Cool. So here's a major shape along the A string. I'm just happening to start it on C right here. Cool. Now what if I took this shape and I wanted to make that a minor shape? I'd have this. Cool. Now the thing to notate here is that the minor shape along the A string, if you haven't figured this out already, is the same as a major shape along the E string. So major shape on the E is the minor shape on the A, which is really cool. And the minor shape on the E is a lot like what goes on here in the major. Not exactly quite, but it's very similar. Cool. So what we're going to do now is take our major shape, which I'm fretting 3, 5, 5, 5, into a major 7th chord. Actually, let's do dominant 7 first. So in order to make this shape, what I'm going to do for dominant 7 is I'm going to have my 5th chord, 3 and 5, and then I'm going to add my middle finger in here. So it's kind of looking like a 7 right there, and then I'm going to add this guy up here. Actually, it's the major 7. Let me go back. So what we're going to do for that, here's my major chord. I'm going to have my 3 and my 5. Here's another 3, and then here's my 5 right there. So this shape, 3, 5, 3, 5. Right there. That was a little bit tricky, but it's in there. Cool. To make that a major 7, all we're going to do is add the 2nd finger in the middle. Hear that? And I'm blocking my note right there. Cool. So major chord, major 7, right there. Or sorry, dominant 7 and major 7. Cool. Pretty chord, right? Cool. To make our minor 7 now, we're going to go to a minor chord, and then again we're going to subtract our pinky. So this works along the A string too. Cool, and there's my minor 7. And again, I also reformat my fingers when I do this, and I use my 1st pinky and 2nd. Cool. So really quick, major chord, minor chord, dominant 7, major 7, and minor 7. Cool. And again, we can move these up. There's my minor 7 chord. Awesome. Finally, let's go to the D string and just learn those few chord shapes, and then we're good to go. Alright, along the D string, our main major shape always looks like a D chord that we move. Cool. When we move it up, of course, we need to compensate and add this note in there, so what you usually get is just this shape moving up. So if that's a D right there, it's a 2nd fret, D sharp, E, and so on. And you may know this already, which is great. So the easiest way to explain these majors and minors is looking down here in the D. So if here's my D chord, to make that a major 7 chord, or actually let's start with minor, to make that a minor chord, what I would do is I would just kind of flip the shape into there. Now along this string it's more about the shapes, because it's kind of hard to keep the same finger patterns, so let's do shapes. So we have what I call the smiley face shape. We flip that to have our minor shape. Now, these are just standard majors and minors, D major, D minor, pretty easy. Cool. Minor 7 chord, what we have is we have this little guy in the corner here, where I'm barring my first 2 or fretting them, and 2nd. Cool, I have a major 7 is just 1 bar across, right there. Cool, and then I have my dominant 7, which is more of a diamond shape. So what we're going to do, since it's easiest to understand in D, I just played them through right there. I'm just going to show you where you would bar those. So for this one, let's go back to the key of G. So I'm going to go here to my 5th fret. This is like the 2nd position of G, because I'm now in, well, technically maybe the 3rd. So I'm going to go over here to my 5th fret, and we're going to make our 3 chords. So a G major chord in this case would be a D shape, so it would be up here. Cool, and the way I'm getting that is if I had like a D chord, like that. But this is kind of uncomfortable, so you could do it like that, but I'm just going to stick to my little circular shape, or my smiley face shape, D. Or in this case it's the G. To make that a minor, I'm just going to again flip these, right there. Sounds awesome, right? Cool. You can also go like that, but we're just doing our flip shape, which is D minor. Cool, and I'm starting that on the 7th fret. So happy face. I'm flipping that over. 2nd finger's just coming up in the middle. Little triangle. Cool, and frets 7, 8, and 6. That's how I'm getting that one. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and make that a G dominant 7. Here's where it gets kind of cool and also tricky. Is remember this D7 shape we played here? We're pretty much going to move that up to the 7th fret like that. And that's the easier way to do it. You can also play it. Here's my root in G in the 5th fret. Cool. So I'm on 5, 7, 4, or sorry, 5, 7, 6, 7. Cool. And this shape, in keeping with shapes when we jump from strings, is a lot like the major 7 when we're down there. But up here it's the dominant 7. Just goes to show you the funky way the guitar is laid out, because there's all these weird shapes you can move around and get different chords. And that really helps me to remember them all. So I say when I get to my D string, I say, okay, I need a G dominant 7 or just a G7. Cool. I can play again like the D7 shape without the root. Or I can say, oh, you know what, it's my major 7 shape from the A string. What one's that one again? Oh yeah, it looks like that. Cool, so I can just kind of move that down to the root note I need and set my fingers up. Cool. Cool, so there's my lower G7, there's my higher one. Awesome, and you hear they sound very much the same because they are the same notes. This one's a little octave higher though. Cool, so we had our dominant 7 there. Again, we can move the shape up. It starts with a power chord. Put the 2nd finger in the middle on the B string, and then pinky goes in the same fret as your 3rd finger. Cool, so 5, 7, 6, 7. Movable shape. And if you need it a little bit easier, just cut out your root note, and then you can reposition. Cool, whereas I'm taking this note out. Cool, all G7s. Wonderful. And those are dominant 7s, not major 7s. Remember that. Cool. So what'd you do for the major 7? This is actually one of my favorite chords right here, positions. It's very, very easy. It looks like, you guessed it, the major shape from the A string. So if I took my major shape from the A string and I move it down to the D string on the root note I'm looking for, in this case it's a G because I need a G major 7, I'm going to take my first finger and I'm going to bar the next 3 strings. And there's my 7. You can hear how pretty it sounds. Awesome. And it's containing the same notes we went over earlier in the video. They're just now up higher. Cool. So here's my G major 7. It's the same as this G major 7. Hear it? I like this one because it's very pretty sounding, especially with a little vibrato on the neck. Cool. Awesome. Finally, what we're going to do is we're going to take a minor 7 and finish up. Cool, so a minor 7 sounds like that, looks like that. You can get in this one of two ways. You can take your major 7 shape along the D string, move these two guys up here and the pinky back here. Cool, that seems like a lot of work. So what we're going to do is we're going to remember that it's a shape from what we used earlier. The minor 7 shape along the D string is the same one from the major on the E string. So you take this formation, you move it over to the root note on the D string that you're looking for, right here. Here's my G, 5th fret. I'm going to take these two guys, park them right here in the middle, both on the 6th fret. B string, E string. Cool, 5th fret, 6th fret, 6th fret. Pinky's going to come out, hang here. Again, I'm forming my power chord down there. Minor 7. Test it out. Cool, and again, those are a little weird to get into at first, and I'm taking my time so I can go through and show you. Cool, and that's just a cover-up that I can't get to it fast enough in the purpose. So there you go. Awesome. Alright, so does that all make sense? I hope so. So what you can do is go back and kind of play through and see what all the chord shapes are. I would recommend getting a good app for chords on either your iPad or your iPhone if you don't use one already. What I use is the guitar toolkit. I forget who makes it, but if you search for that, I think it's about $10, but it has an insane chord database that you can not only search for chords by their names, like major 7s, minor 7s, but you can also hit like a search feature or a find function. Well, it's more of a type-in function where it gives you a blank fretboard and you can type in chords and it'll show you actually what it is you're playing. So when I come up with a chord, I'll actually go and I'll do that and I'll find out it's like a major 9 or a B minor 11 or something. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I'll put that in my head and I'll remember it for next time. So I would definitely do that. The other app, if you like jazz, is try iRealB, which is kind of like a mobile version of their Real Fake Book. And what that does is you can load all these like jazz charts in there. And they do have a forum, so you can download a bunch of known stuff. But it has all these major 7s, minor 7s, flat 7s, or dominant 7s. So you can go and you can play through them and learn them while you jam with the track, which is really cool. It's also good for soloing and improv. But if you're trying to learn the chords, as I downloaded it and I just kind of went through the chart, and it's really, really handy. That one is about, I think, $7 or $8. Then they have some upgrades you can get in-app purchases. But I do recommend doing both of those, just so you can actually put these chords to use. Because if you're like me, you get kind of bored with just watching and then saying, okay, I know that chord, how am I going to use it now? And then you kind of lose it. So what I did is I learned a cool progression using these 7s. So just play it for you. And this one's actually in the iRealB book, so if you want to check that out, it's in the app. Cool. So what I had was a F minor 7, a B flat 7, minor 7, F minor 7, B flat minor 7, an E flat 7, so that's the dominant, and then an A flat major 7. Cool, a D flat major 7. Cool, a D7, G7, and then a C major 7. Cool, and then I went to a dominant 7 towards the end just to kind of have a change in there. So you got So you get cool sounding stuff like that, and you can jam with your friends and say, hey, I know that chord, it's a flat 7, it's a minor 7, it's a major 7. Anyways, use it, get smarter as a guitarist, and have fun with it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave the comments or send me an email. Thank you.